Oh, hello. Well, today, hope you're all doing well. I'm going to be doing a short little video here on incomplete and codominance. So, as I mentioned before in class, over the next however much time we're off right now, I'll be putting up a couple videos of some of the things that I found. I think in the notes themselves are a little bit more complicated, and so while there probably are other things in the notes that you may have questions about, please feel free to ask questions, or if enough of you want me to make a video on that, I can do that as well. But for right now, I'm just going to pick the things that I think will lead to the most questions. But again, feel free to ask about other things that are not in this video too. Okay, so there is quite a few things, but you can use Teams, email me, or whatever you need to do. So the first little video that I'm going to be making is on incomplete and codominance. So again, you do have different notes in your sheets. I'm just going to key on a couple important things here. So with incomplete dominance, basically a heterozygous individual has a different phenotype than that of a homozygous dominant and a homozygous recessive individual. And the phenotype that they display is somewhere in between the two. It's more or less of a blend as opposed to showing both of them, which is what we see in codominance. So with incomplete, the dominant gene doesn't really fully overwrite the recessive allele in phenotype, and they more or less just kind of blend here. And so you'll see a little bit of both. The example that was used in the notes was straight hair and curly hair. In humans, generally speaking, those are the two that you can get. However, when you mix the two, you tend to get a wavy hair between the two. So wavy hair, it's not quite curly, it's not quite straight, it's a bit of a blend of the two, and so that is where an example of incomplete dominance would come in. So for example, if we have a curly hair woman, nope, and a straight haired guy, I guess that's straight hair, when they come together, you get wavy children. Sorry, wavy haired children, not wavy children, that'd be different. So let's look at what the phenotypes would actually look like on those two people here. So the lady in this case, okay, again, the letter doesn't really matter too much what you want to do. Let's use H for hair. The dominant one is technically straight haired, whereas curly hair is a recessive gene. So in this case, the woman would be HH, and the male would be capital H, capital H. Okay, and so when you do mix the two, again, remember, the only gamete that the male can produce in this case is a capital H. The mother can only produce a lowercase recessive one, and so that means their children, or offspring, whatever you want to call it, will all be H, which equals wavy hair. Whoa. Okay, and that would be straight, and this would be curly. Okay, so another example. You'll see this quite commonly in flowers. And so snapdragons, they're a type of flower. You can have red ones, white ones, and you can even have pink ones. The pink is the incomplete dominance showing up here. So red is typically considered the dominant trait. White is a recessive trait, but when you do mix the two together, the heterozygotes would have a pink flower color. Okay? So again, they're not really showing individual, like both white and red at the exact same time, where some petals are white and some petals are red. And again, we will see this in codominance, but in this case, instead, they're showing a blend of the two. Okay. So, as an example, what would be the phenotypic ratio in a cross involving a pink and white snapdragon? So we have one flower, which is going to be pink, which, remember, that's RR. That means the gametes that it can pass on are that or that. And the whites is going to be two recessive ones. Oops. And it can only give up that. That means then, when you were to cross these, you would end up with the following. Okay. So what we can see here is for the genotype, you would have half being heterozygotes and the other half being recessive. So pheno then would be 1/2 pink and 1/2 white. And my face is kind of in the way here, so I'll write it down there. So that is a 1-to-1 ratio of pink to white flowers. Amazing. Okay, codominance, on the other hand, is when both alleles are being equally expressed. And so neither one is necessarily dominant over each other. They both want to be seen in the phenotype. They both want to be viewed in the final organism. And so both traits will show up together. Now that's not to say that there is no recessive gene between these two. Sometimes there is an additional trait, an additional gene that would be considered recessive to the other ones. An example of this would be the ABO blood system, human blood typing. So both A and B are dominant over the O blood type. O is a recessive trait. Okay? However, A and B are co-dominant because neither is dominant over each other. If you have a parent who is pure A, a homozygous A, and a parent who is a homozygous B, together they would produce a child who is an AB blood type. So both proteins would be found on the red blood cells of the AB child. So they are co-dominant. They're both showing up together. Another example that was in the notes was, again, different flowers. Their petals. Not all of them are incomplete like in the previous example we just looked at. Sometimes there are co-dominant one. So they may show both pink and white petals at the exact same time. So for just looking here, someone who is type A, they could have the blood type IA, or it could be this, IA and lowercase I. The lowercase I would be the recessive allele. And so if you have two of those, if you are the O type, you would need to be II, little I. Okay? Now if you are AB, you would be IA, IB. Okay. Now you will see in the picture that they do use O for that. I don't really like that though, mostly because it is still linked to the same allele, the same gene, that is to say, the immunoglobulin, and it's linked to that. So the I one would be recessive. It's just, it shows different letters. Otherwise, I don't, it's a little bit weird that way. But with IA and IB, they would be considered the AB blood type. So let's look at an example of that there. So and this one was right in your notes. And so we have a cross between a heterozygous type A and a heterozygous type B. So that would mean the heterozygous type A would be that, and the heterozygous type B would be this. So gamete-wise, they can pass on the IB or the lowercase I. And this one, same idea. They could give that or the lowercase one. So let's set up our Punnett square here. Oops, that's a terrible I.
Mrs. Friesen, contact the office, please. Mrs. Friesen.
Yeah, Mrs. Friesen. So we could have this as our Punnett square. Okay, so this one would result in an AB blood type. This would be a B blood type. This would be an A blood type. And this would be an O. So we can actually get all 4 different possibilities here. And so the genotypes would be 1/4 IA, IB, 1/4 IA, I, 1/4 IB, I, and 1/4 II. So phenotype-wise, we would end up with, I'm going to just make some space up here, running out of room. So pheno would be 1/4, or if you put 25%, that's fine too. They mean the exact same. 1/4 of the 25% chance to have a child that is AB, 25% chance to have a blood type of A, 25% chance to have a blood type of B, and then a 25% chance to have the blood type O. Okay, so there's that. Now, one other thing, I think it is mentioned further on in the notes, but they do start talking about carriers later on. What that realistically means is that they are a heterozygote. So, for this person right here, for example, we could say that they're a carrier of the O blood type. They wouldn't display the O blood type because it is a recessive gene, but they would carry that, and so it is possible that they then have a child who is a different blood type than they are. So they could, as they carry the allele for it. It's no guarantee.
Good morning. Sorry for the interruption. There was a handful of teachers inquiring whether or not they could assist our maintenance crew by moving desks in advance of the cleaning. On their behalf, they said if you are able and have time to, it would be great if you could assist with that. They would truly appreciate it. It helps make their job a little bit easier. And they would ask that you slide the desks towards the hallway wall. And that's only if you are able and have time to do it. Thank you.
Sweet. Do that later. Another example of codominance is still going to be sticking with blood type just because this is one that applies to humans and it's quite common. And I know last year too, a lot of you had asked about blood types and being able to figure out what you are based upon your parents. So here's another. What are the possible blood types for a child if the mother is type AB and the father is a type A heterozygote? So here's a mom. Their genotype, is this, meaning they can pass on that or that. The father, who is a heterozygote, is IA, meaning they can pass on that gene, or they can pass on the recessive one. So in terms of the children, or child that they have, we'll do a quick Punnett square. Doesn't matter which one goes on top and which is on the side. You'll get the same results anyways. So this would be a homozygous A. We could also have a child that is AB. Then we have another A type. And then we have a B type. Oops. Okay. There we go. So in this case, all 3 blood types are a possibility, though genotype would be different. So let's write out the genotypes and compare then with the phenotypes afterwards. So for geno, 25% chance of being this, 25% chance of being a heterozygous A, 25% chance of being AB, 25% chance of being the B type. Okay, so phenotype-wise, though, it is going to be a little bit different because, again, with these two, both of these would end up being a type A. Okay, it doesn't matter that one of them is a homozygous A and one of the heterozygous A. They are going to have the type A blood type. So there's a 50% chance of being type A, 25% chance being AB, and a 25% chance being type B. So that is all there is with the codominance and incomplete dominance. Like I said, if you do have any more questions about it, feel free to ask me. Send me a message on Teams, send me a message on email. Teams would be, I guess, they're both fine. I don't really care. You can send those in. If there's, again, other things that you'd like me to go through, please just let me know. If I get enough questions about the same topics, I would make another video. But if it's just one or two people, then I'll probably just answer you directly. But again, I'm going to be picking the things that I think might be the more complicated things. So again, let me know if you want me to make other ones, and then I will do that. So that's it for this recording. Hope you're all doing well, and see you around. Stop.